my son, um, and that conversation with my dad, I was beginning to accept the fact that their dad was not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a space where you have to understand that this is reality for you right now. Trying to escape and avoid it is not going to solve the solutions. It's not going to give you any way to solve it. None of that doesn't work. And it was then when I said, okay, I got to face it. And I faced my situations. And of course, throughout this whole time, I was in school. I would go to college and go for a minute, and the kids needed me. And then I was always in beauty school. So I had my license. I do hair. So I'm always making money some kind of way, you know. You doing hair every day, that's money in your pocket. I'll always have a job too, a little side job, just because I needed, you know, another. I got 3 kids. I got to have some type of income coming in, and one wasn't enough. So I always was able to put myself in position. But I think my having it when I realized that I'm a mother of 3 children and I have a son, and I'm scared, and I have no idea what I'm going to do because his father is choosing. Because I'm not with him, he just, you know, just I don't want to have anything to do with y'all because I don't, you know. So I went through that type of thing. So now I have 3 children by 2 men. One can't be around, the other one is choosing not to be around because I'm choosing not to be with him. So now you're going to make me suffer because of it. Okay.
Mm.
And I think I had to come to a realization that that was my decision. I allowed them to be in my life. I chose them as a partner. It wasn't, I don't care how you want to look at it. Let's look at it for what it is. You chose that.
Right.
And now I had to put my big girl panties on and handle it.
And that moment that the light turned on, how relieving and rejuvenating was that when the light came on and you're like, oh, I'm finally starting to put the pieces together and understand this thing.
Well, it was my pastor, Apostle Carlos Turner. He had a storefront church literally around the corner from my house, and we would walk around the corner. At the time, I didn't have a car, so we would walk to church, Sunday school, all that. And his delivery and him breaking it down, the Hebrewic definitions of what it is. I've been in church all my life, but I've never heard it in that way, shape, form, or fashion. I didn't, you know, I know the stories, but it never related. I never related to it in that way, the way that he broke it down. So under his leadership and his guidance, that's when I was like, oh, okay, this is not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is still life after death. Like you don't have to, this does not have to be your end of story. You're still valuable.
Right.
You're not used and thrown away. You do know that used goods are still usable. They're still good, right? A little dent does not make the food inside the can spoil. That doesn't
Right.
mean that's just the outside of it. But who are you to allow someone to tell you how valuable you are? What did God say? God still sees you as his daughter. So I had to really, really get deep into that. And he was really, really pouring into my spirit about who I was and how God still sees me, you know? And I had to understand that there's nothing that you can do can separate you from the love of God. And I thought I had done so much wrong and made so many mistakes that God saw me less than. And so it was having that moment where the first time in my life I did a fast for 7 days. I've never done a fast. He only asked us to do a 3-day fast, right? When I tell you, Maurice, the only thing I had was water and maybe crackers. The first 3 days where I was like, I can't do it. Never fasted a day in my life. Once I made it past the 3rd day, I kept going. So that was the first time I did a 7-day fast with just water. And it literally changed my life. Literally, people were saying I was glowing. I received the Holy Spirit then, did not know what was happening. All this stuff, I was hollering and screaming. We were at church and it was like, let her go because God is removing and pouring and taking out of her the very things that was causing. So I went through all of that real time, never had ever received the Holy Spirit. Didn't know what that felt like. Didn't even understand that to that extent, you know? And when that was my moment on the Damascus Road, that was my one-on-one moment with God that Paul had. That was my moment with God that
Mhm.
I personally had with him. And everything after that, it was never the same. My
And how old
personal
were you?
relationship with God never was the same.
And how old were you at that point?
I had to been maybe maybe 27.
Okay. That's I mean, but you talking about that's an accelerated grown 27 because you've been out there and seen some things and did some things. So now the pieces are getting back together. You're finding your groove. You're finding your relationship with God is developing. Was your environment changing? Was the things that you were accustomed to doing, was those things starting to fade in the background, and you starting to did the nurturing part of mom come back? Did you start to get that back so that your children could actually get that from you instead of from the external sources that you had around you?
Well, I would fake it. Even though I might have been doing things, my kids never knew. They always had a nice place to stay, a backyard, a calm neighborhood. So I had enough sense to say that I want to make sure that they grew up the same way that I did. Even
Hmm.
though they didn't come from a two-parent household, they had everything they wanted and desired. And if mama was making deals with the devil, it wasn't at home. So they had no
Right.
idea. Their surrounding never changed. We never lived in a hood. I never was on a, none of that stuff happened. So I always knew how to make it look good,
Okay.
right? It's the mental for me. The
Uh-huh.
mental was the battlefield. Mentally, I wasn't there, right? Emotionally, I wasn't there. My finances have always been up and down, but I'm a single mother with 3 children. So there's never going to be enough to comfortably take care of me and my children. You get what I'm saying? So
Right.
once I began to accept God and for him to see me in the way that I needed to see myself, my mentality started changing. And
Hmm.
because my mentality and spiritually started changing, things I was able to handle and deal with life a little differently, unlike I would before, right? And so what changed was I had the ability to see them not as a burden. Because I
Mm.
have to be honest with you, my children, I didn't see them as a blessing. They were all a burden to me.
That's good.
And I've
Wow.
been, this conversation I've had with all of them. So I'm not saying anything that I have not had with them, but life became a burden. They were not a blessing, but a burden to me. And I
Mm.
did the right thing by not having an abortion because I don't believe in that. So
Right.
I felt like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I became the provider and the protector.
Mm.
That's what you got from me. I protected you and I provided for you. You can't ask of me of anything else because it's just one of me.
Right.
I don't have the balance to do back and forth. I don't know how to do that. So that didn't come along, Maurice, until later on. And I think even now we can have those conversations with my kids, but now they understand that she just didn't have it.
And you
You
can't
can't
give
give what
something
you
that you
don't
don't
have.
have.
She just
Yeah.
didn't have it. I shut
Yeah.
down still. I was still shutting down because I knew that if these people around here saw any type of weakness in me, then they're going to come for me. And if I can't protect myself from you, from them, I can't protect you from them. That was my mentality. If I show a little bit of love, a little bit of grace, they're going to run through, I can't do that. I have to protect you guys. I have to protect myself.
But you changed your environment though. You know, you were moving in a different direction. Was it just that you have been ingrained in it so long, and it just became you against the world kind of thing,
I
and you
trust
couldn't?
God now, but I don't trust y'all. I don't trust nobody. What would I trust you
Hmm.
for? Why would I do
Hmm.
that? Why would I set myself up for another downfall? I can only take so much. I trust God with everything now. I don't trust no man. I don't trust none of y'all. I trust God now because now He's explained to me and showing me and giving me back what I thought that I was never going to get back that I lost. I don't trust y'all though. No, no, I don't trust y'all.
And so now you moving, and your kids are. Did you get an established career? You said you was a hairstylist. Did another career pop up
Just
that you rocked with?
I would go to school, go to school. I kept going for my degree, but life happens, and I couldn't just give up the fact of allowing somebody else to have responsibility of kids. Like you work and go to school, okay, but we need stuff. So either you about to work and get a job that's gonna give you 10 hours, or you finna go to school and work part-time. Part-time wasn't gonna be enough, baby. I need money. I need, look, school is good if I had the ability, and back then, if I would know how important it would have been to make that sacrifice, but I couldn't allow my kids to go without, or me to be wondering how we're gonna make it off of a part-time job. Like, I'm a grown woman at this time. Come on
Mhm.
now, that's my dream. I have to wait until I get them. I make them. I'm gonna have to sacrifice that until they are in a space where I can. And
Okay.
that went on until me and God like this, and He gave me a word and told me it was time for me to leave. Said, your time is up in Jonesboro. And I said, wait, what? I got a nice house. I'm working, factory job, but I'm cool. Like, the kids are straight, we good. It's time for you to go. I'm like, go where? Like,
Mhm.
I'm comfortable.
Yeah, hey, won't he do it? Won't he
I'm
make you
comfortable. Like,
uncomfortable?
what you doing? What you mean it's time for me to go? It's time for you to go. And I fought it, tried to stay at the job. I went and found a place in Mississippi, right outside of Memphis. I moved, but I was moving slow. I was supposed to
Right.
been found a place, but I waited for months, and then, well, I'm gonna wait, and I'll come back on the weekends. I'm still working in Arkansas. We and many kids that come here on the weekends,
Mm.
and God had sent a woman that said we were working in the factory, and she said, I don't know if you're gonna take this, but God just told me that He got a word. He told me to tell you it's time for you to pack up and leave today. She had no idea what I was. She had no idea of that. She couldn't have known any of that, and we were literally on the line. She said, she said, can I talk to you real quick in the bathroom? I said, yeah. She said, God told me to tell you that you got to stop, quit today, that you got to leave today. I said, what? She said, you're supposed to leave today. You're supposed to have been left. I walked out that job when the kids got out of school, got them kids, took whatever I can, and we moved.
To
No
Mississippi.
job. It was during the recession when everything, no, when nobody hiring, right before Obama became president. Everything
Uh-huh.
was
Oh eight,
haywire.
oh
You remember that?
nine.
The '08,
Uh-huh.
'09? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Here I am moving with not a job, can't find a job. Because God told me my family not receiving it. God told you what? Why would you do that? Your kids are, everybody is settled. Like, why would you uproot them like that? So my family didn't support me because they're like, what are you doing? You finna move to Memphis? What are you doing? So it didn't look right, right? But I
Right.
still went. And here's the thing, Maurice. Just because I went, don't think that I went and everything was peaches and cream. It wasn't.
Oh no. No.
It wasn't. I didn't have
Because
enough
faith,
money to put gas in the car and wash clothes. So you're gonna have to wash
right.
clothes in the tub just so you can have some gas in your car so that you can get around to even look for a job or take these kids to school. I've never struggled like that in my life. Washing clothes in the tub? No, man, no. Because I couldn't afford to wash and dry at that time.
But you were obedient.
I was obedient.
And so the obedience trumps all the sacrifice anyway, right? And it tells you obedience is better than sacrifice. Now, and this is one of the hard things about family. When God tells you to do something that is not that's non-conventional, that's unconventional, that like when God told Moses to build the ark, it was the first boat that was being built. They
Mhm.
like, what you building? This thing called a boat. You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't make no sense when you're doing it, but it's because God is the author and the finisher, and your obedience, even though you couldn't see it or you didn't rock with it, and your people was just like, she's being destructive. Because I can only imagine that was the mindset, right? Like, they've seen you over the last few years kind of move and shake. Immediately they think she's being destructive.
Yep. You're not
And
giving them, you've been stable for the last almost 10 years, 8 years. Why would you want to uproot that stability that you've established for yourself and your kids? Why would you do that? And I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't explain to them, but God told me it was time to go. So within 6 months of me being in Mississippi, I immediately found a church home.
Mm-hmm.
Brown Baptist, Dr. Bartholomew Orr was my pastor at that time when I was in the church. And I was in in the singles ministry. The kids was in, the youth ministry. I became very active. I've always been active in my church, and met a lady that was selling Mary Kay. So I got to try to figure to get some money. Walmart wasn't even hiring at that time. And she was like, well, I know everything is rough, but I sell Mary Kay. You think about it, I'm like, oh, God, I don't want to do no Mary Kay. Like, what is this? But if this is a way to make money, let me try. Come to find out, her husband was a foreman at General Motors.
Mm.
And she came to me, she said, I know that, this may not be something that you want to do, but I understand your situation. This may be something that you may need temporary. She
Mm-hmm.
said, General Motors is hiring. I can tell my husband about you. You've been there. It's hard labor. It's a lot of hard work. But if you're willing to do it and, at least get yourself in a position, do you want it? I said, right now, what other choice do I have? And that's when I worked for General Motors and had been with them ever since October of last year. So 15 years, went from that to that.
Okay. And you got into a space, you got insurance, you got benefits, you got all that stuff, all the stuff that you walked away from. I'm sure that God went ahead and restored all that, and then your family seeing like, oh, it wasn't a bad move after all.
Right, absolutely.
So now in this space, now are you starting to grow and nurture and become uh more soft with your children?
Yes, and with myself. First, it had to be with myself
Uh-huh.
because I had to nurture the little cookie. I had to go back to the little girl.
Yeah.
During my therapy, I had to go back to the little cookie and look. You have to go through that childhood trauma, abandonment. We have to tackle that. Let's break that up. Let's
Yeah.
talk about it. Let's get to the nitty gritty of. Let's get to the root of the cause of the problem, right? And so you have to, you have to be open to that, and not only open to that, but be receptive to what the solutions require out of you. And so going back to let little cookie know that she don't have to be this tough, rough little girl anymore. I got you, baby. I got you, baby. I got you. I'm here now.
Mm.
Angela is here now. Thank you for being the survivor, but Angela is the successor now. So now I'm being introduced to Angela. And Angela, it could not be Angela if Cookie had not shown and been who she was. I needed a survivor at that time, but I no longer am a single woman, a single mother now. My children
Hmm.
are grown. I'm not a single mother, so I don't have to tell that story no longer. That's not my story,
Right.
right? I can go to little Cookie and forgive her, right? And say that you still
Hmm.
are enough.
Hmm.
Your decisions does not define you. You are still worthy. You are worthy of marriage. You are still worthy of have someone to love you in its entirely, which I did get married in that time that I've been with General Motors. I did get married. And so everything that the people or that I thought that I wasn't able to attain, God saw fit for me to do it. So you can't say that a single woman with 3 kids will never find a husband. That's a lie because I did it. You can't say that a single woman where I come from that I wasn't going to be successful and wasn't able to take care of my family. No, General Motors did it. God did that. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
You can't say
Right.
that I could not own my own house and do that. Guess what? I did that. God allowed me to do that. Everything that would have been what a woman can't do, or what my personal story would say that I wouldn't be able to do, God showed differently. Said, no,
Right.
that don't have nothing to do with you. You are who I say that you are. And I say that this is where your value is. Now, what I need you to do is go and become more valuable, right? By personal
Right.
development, self-worth, self-love. I need you to go so deep within yourself that now when people see you, they don't have to ask. They see you. They see the light. They see you. They understand that something about you. They have to see God
Hmm.
in you some kind of way. Where your residue? If you say you're about your father's business, then you should look like your father. There
Right.
should be something about you that resonate with who you say you are. There's something should resonate with you. You don't have to come out and say it, but there's something about my character, the way that I talk, the way that I move, my spirit, my energy that resonates and say, yeah, It's something about that. I don't know what it is, but let me have a conversation with her.
Yeah. So woo wee. Look at, I mean, God is God doing God things. That's what he does. So so you said you got remarried.
I got married.
You
That
got,
was
I
the
mean,
first
not
time.
remarried, you got married. I'm sorry, you got
Mhm.
married. How did you feel that you was ready to be, that you were equipped enough now to be a wife?
No, but I wanted to be married by 35. That's exactly what I did.
Oh,
I
okay.
found a good, decent guy that wanted to marry me. I wanted to be married by 35. I had something to prove at that point.
Right.
I'm gonna
So
be
so
honest with you. I
so
had something to prove.
you were checking off boxes.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
And how long were you married?
On paper, 8 years,
Okay.
but I wasn't. He wasn't a husband, and I wasn't a wife. And we like to think that we say that we're a good wife because good is compared to who? What do you mean good? But we were unequally yoked, and I knew that going into it. But I had something to prove.
But it checked off a box.
But it checked out the box because I was married by 35. Like
Yeah.
you saying that I can't, a man that's not going to want to marry me because I have 3 children. Ain't nobody going to want to marry you. I just proved
Yeah.
all of y'all wrong. Now what?
So what will happen in that, like, what you know, to meet a, you're compromise to meet a belief, right? You're compromise a belief to check a box.
Check the box.
And so when you realized that that wasn't the move, how did you transition out of that?
Oh, I went through hell because now here's the thing, God is still God and he's still your father. So even though you come to him and say, hey, dad, I need some help and, get me out of this, there's consequences to that because I didn't put you in that. You did that on your own. So just like any father would teach their kids that you do something outside of what we telling you to do, you got to suffer for that. So I
Right.
suffered from that. Don't get it twisted. I went through a lot, stuff that I've never went through. I've never been in domestic violence. I've never been in any type of relationships that required who. But
Right.
I literally went through hell and high water to get disconnected from this man. The very man that I admired of protecting me was the very man that I had to be protected from.
Mm,
Never experienced that a day in my life. I've never experienced that. And so he was my first narcissist that I have
uh,
ever encountered. And I was
okay.
married to him.
So that is one of those things where, um, God's perfect will and God's permissive will. And most of the time his permissive will creates some situations that we have sown seeds in, and those seeds then produce fruit, and then
Mhm.
we got to deal with the fruit, because God is not a God of tit for tat kind of thing. He's not, you do this, I'm going to punish you for this. He's like, no, I'm gonna let the punishment is gonna come from the seed that you sown. So in all that, then how long have you been divorced?
On paper, since 2019,
Okay, so fairly recently.
on paper, but we've been separated since 2015.
Okay,
So
okay,
even though we were on paper longer than what we were actually married, we wasn't like we had no type of dealings and ties. The divorce wasn't official. I didn't officially get it done until 2019.
okay. And then from there, what was your road to recovery? Now you done already been on the bottom of the bottom, looking up at the bottom. You done been in the dark side, so you know how to navigate in the darkness. You know how to, you done seen the pieces fall together, and you know how to put the pieces back together. What was your healing journey from that point forward?
My healing journey started. I got injured at General Motors through my back. Had to get surgery. I had a cyst, not a cyst, a herniated disc because I worked
Mm,
hard. That would happen in 2015. And I waited a year before I tried to find all type of different alternatives to keep from having back surgery because I've been told, once you go back there and I'm right in my sacrum, I was trying to find other alternatives to solve the situation, but there wasn't any. So having back surgery was my last option. Once I had back surgery, I was back to work within 6 months because of the pressure of bills. Bills don't stop coming because you off work, and I'm only
Right.
getting a certain amount of my money. So the pressure of doing all that, I made my doctor kind of sign saying that yes, I'm relieving her back to work as long as you have light duty. Well, we don't have light duty, so I compromised my health. At this time, my daughter, she's 19, she's 20, she's pregnant. I'm let her come back home. I have a grandchild that's coming. So all the pressures of that, I'm back in survival mode. Um,
Mm.
but this time I have a little bit more means to sustain us. You get what I'm saying? I have a
Yeah.
good job. You know,
Yeah.
I have benefits, so we're covered. But Maurice, you have to think about it. Just because I'm aware of that, knowing how energy, frequency, and vibration work, I'm still attracting me, the unhealed version of me.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So even though I've been through it, until I can identify that this is what it is, I'm going to still attract it until I change and become something greater. So I'm still going to attract the unhealed version of myself with my
Right.
partner. And
Hmm.
I did. I had a 2016, I went back to work. I stayed for about a year as much as I could and re-injured myself being at work to where I had a stroke and seizure on the job.
Wow.
I was in a relationship then at that time with a elementary school friend of mine that happened to be in the same city that I was in. And we kind of went from friendship straight to this happened, went straight to husband-wife role. Like we were exclusive, but we were only a year in, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you got to think about it. One day he talked to me on the phone and it's cool. The next day he come to see me, I'm in the hospital. I got paralysis on the right side of my body. I'm not able to speak, to talk. I'm word slurring, my mouth is slurring. I can't move from my waist down on the right side of my body. What happened to me? So he immediately kicked in as the man that he is and became the husband. He took
Hmm.
care of me. When I tell you that my ex took care of me, he took care of me in a way. I mean, I couldn't do anything on my own. I couldn't walk. I had to learn, I got to get there. I had to learn how to walk again. I was in a wheelchair. Like I went through so much, was having
Hmm.
seizures. I was having seizures. And this man still took care of me and stood by my side. And
Wow.
so I have to give honor where honor is due. Every time I speak of him, I got to say he was a good man and he took care of me. But how God has it is that I was physically being broken down so that internally all those things can come out. I'm not
Hmm.
doing this now. I'm not understanding the process. I'm thinking, God, why me? Like I'm constantly I'm going through another battle, another battle. Now it's physically. Why? Because my nervous system was on fight or flight for so long, Maurice, that it didn't take but one little more thing to send me over the edge. And now my nervous system is all out of whack. I don't have feeling in my body. I have paralysis on my body. I'm having seizures. Everything was dysregulated.
Hmm.
You got to heal, baby. And they can't even tell you why.
Mm.
That's all internal, spiritual, emotional. Everything that I have been through, I never released it.
Right.
It literally had to come out of me. It literally was in my back. It literally was keeping me captive.
Wow.
And it had to be released. So God allowed me to go through that, right, physically, in order for all of that to come out of me eternally. It had to be released. It got to come up out of you some kind of way. And I
Hmm.
didn't realize that's where my healing really started. I thought that it was physically, but it was actually spiritually, emotionally, all of that was going on at the same time. So in 2020, I have these in my closet, I have these prayer requests that I made over my children, over myself. And it was 2020, I submitted to the will of God. I said, God, have your way. I'm done. I can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know which way you have me to go, but whatever it is that you want me to do, I'm done. I'm throwing my hands up. I can't do it no more. I don't know what to do. And I made that statement and made the agreement, and that's when my healing journey actually began back in 2020. It started physically, and then it's physically, was learning about energy, frequency, and vibration, and understanding how my body works and how the stress on your nervous system can cause all of these type of symptoms that we suffer
Yeah.
from more than anybody else.
Yeah.
The generational curses and making that pledge and understanding that when you're the chosen, when you're one of the chosen, you're going to go through more than anybody else. You can't get away with nothing. You don't have oh, well, let me try. No, you're going to get burnt the first time. You're
Yeah.
going to get caught the first time. There is no other, that's just how it is. And I had to make peace with that, of knowing that I didn't know I was chosen. I didn't know. I thought God didn't love me. I thought that he was just shining, upset at me, but then realized that, no, you're one of one. You're one of them.
Yeah. He was forging you into the person that you are. That's why, you know, when you look back at your journey, that he didn't take you out in the wilderness. I was sharing this yesterday. I was teaching this class, and my question was to them was, stand up here and talk about something, one of your happiest moments. So they asked me what was one of my happiest moments, and my happiest moments was when I, in 1999, decided to give my life to Christ, and just and the grace and mercy that I look back on, the stuff that didn't take me out, people that caught bullets that was next to me, that in places that people, I mean, the craziness, right? So when you look at your life, those are all connection points and lifelines into other people's lives. And the people like us that are chosen to be forerunners and trailblazers and things like that, we got to take the brunt of everything. Why? Because we got to be able to get the person who's just now getting on the path, and the person who's in the middle of the path, and the person who's at their wits end, getting ready to check out off the path. We have to experience all that so that we can be able to throw those lifelines and give them some kind of hope and say, I've been where you are. I know, I understand what you're going through. And let me tell you how I started to move off this path into another path. It's not a fun process. It's not an easy process. The process like that, it doesn't stop. So whatever you get into next, whatever God has for you next, once a trailblazer, you're always a trailblazer. Once a forerunner, you're always a forerunner. So things just doesn't change. What he allows us to do is he allows us to function more in more grace and wisdom, because now we got experience. I tell people all the time, I can navigate in the darkness. I know what that looked like. I can navigate well in the darkness. I can function and thrive in the darkness because I've been in the darkness. so so it makes what it does too, it makes a greater testimony for you, because when you crawl out of the darkness and you are actually standing on solid ground, and you look at everything that you got out of to get to that point, it makes this thing that we call life real, and when we speak, impactful. So hey,
Mhm.
I rock with it.
Yeah, I mean, because here's the thing, without it, how would you know? How would you know what it's like to be divorced if you've never been divorced? How can you speak on that? How would you know what it's like to have a loved one incarcerated if you've never experienced it? How would you know what it's like to not to be loved, to not to be selected? How would you know what it's like to struggle if you've never had a struggle in your life? You can't relate, and people need to know that you're relatable. Not
Right.
because of what I don't. It ain't just the book of Genesis. It's the book of Angela, chapter 49,
Come on.
verse, what verse we are in, because it's
We
the
in
book
verse
that I'm
10. We in
writing.
verse 10. We in October. We in October.
Yeah, I know what Paul said, but let me tell you what Angela said. I know what James, but let me talk to you about the people that I know. And let me tell you about Angela and Cookie. And let me tell you how she survived and when she met Jesus at the well. Let me tell you what that was like for her. Let me tell you what it was like to come up out of the everything and that someone told you what you can't be and what you're not going to do. Let me tell you what that looks like. Let me tell you what it looks like to still be in it and still have grace and mercy and still smile and still come and show yourself worthy, even when you don't look like it, even when you don't. Let me tell you what it's like to be in the lake of the water. Let me tell you what it's like to be in the fire. See,
Come
we
on.
talk about what it likes outside, but what happens when you're in the fire? I'm going to tell you what it looks like while you're in the fire, when you're being burned. Let me tell you what that looks like, you know?
Woo-wee.
That
Preach,
that's
preacher.
that's
That's
the
all I can
part that's
say.
impactful, because we know what it looks like when the sun shines. We know
Right.
what it looks like when the storm comes. But when you're in it and you're strapped in and you're being pushed and tossed and turned, how do you still stand still? Where do you get that from? How do you remain steadfast? It's easy to do when the sun is out and when you're predicting that a storm is coming. But what happens when God don't remove you from the storm? He's telling you to stay.
Right.
Let's talk about that. Not just being in the water, but literally when you're drowning. How do you remain? What do you do then? I think people want to know. That's the real part of life that they want to
Right.
know. How did you make it while you were drowning? Matter of fact, you drowned a couple times. What did you
A
do?
couple of times. More than a couple.
More than a couple. You get what I'm saying? It's more than a couple times. And I know that that's something that we'll continue to have to face, but let me tell you what I did. And let me tell you what it looks like, even what happens when you don't feel like praying. See, we don't want to talk about the real stuff. What happens
Right.
when you don't feel like praying? Oh,
Right.
no,
You
now
lean to
what
your
happens
own
when you're not feeling
understanding
God
and then
right
you
now?
bear the fruit from that.
Hmm?
You lean to your own understanding and then you bear the fruit from that. When you don't want to seek God, we say, let my wisdom is better than God's wisdom, because I don't want to go to him. And
Involuntary, you still got to spin the block.
you,
You
you
can't get
you
around it. You can't
still
go
got
under it. You can't get over it. You got to go through it.
woo woo woo. I I think there is a book stirring up in you. I just keep hearing that in my spirit, and I I there is a book, um, and this is what I hear the title is, Cookie. So you roll, you take that and if it doesn't line up with your spirit in the moment, you shelf it. But if it's lining up with your spirit, you do what you've always done, which is be obedient to what thus says the Lord.
Look, Maurice,
And
Cookie Lewis, I ain't lying.
yeah, come on.
Cookie Lewis,
So
I ain't Cookie lying, but we got some similarities to that in that storyline.
so we full circle. We're standing here, and you have an amazing show that you put out on TikTok. Go ahead and talk about your show a little bit. Wait.
Well, let me tell you how it started. During the COVID-19, everybody, of course, I was still off work because I was still recovering. But I was like, what is this TikTok thing? I didn't know what it was, and just being bored. And like me, I'm a vibe by myself. I can do karaoke at the house by myself. I have a good time just by myself. I've always been that way. And so, God told me that I'm in a space now where he said, go get the fish. And I was like, go get the fish. He was like, yes, go get the fish. And I was like, so you want me to press live on TikTok? Like you want me to bring them into my space? I don't know these people. Like I don't have to I don't they are the fish. And I'm like, they the fish. He said, don't worry about what you have to say. I just need you to bring them to me. And
Mm,
I'm like, I'm finna do karaoke and having a good time. So me being myself, being who I am, I just started with 4 followers, 4, and I would come on and we would do karaoke. I can't sing. It ain't about me knowing how to sing, but I have a good time. You get what I'm saying? So literally, that's how it started, Maurice. Going on karaoke, just being who I am, and the people started coming. I was consistent. All I kept hearing was to be consistent.
mm.
So I was consistent by coming on certain days, being consistent. Um, Not sharing none of my business because I don't know y'all like that, and I don't have vulnerability yet. So I'm not comfortable with the V word. No, but I can just do this. Not knowing, not realizing that this was part of my healing. And God
Uh-huh.
was showing me how to be vulnerable and working through my personal development. Now I have to do it in front of people, that thousands of people that I have no idea who they are. But guess what? I'm finding my tribe. So it went from
Yeah.
4 to now whatever the amount that we have now. Now it has become Grown Folks Boulevard. That became something that was bigger than what I even thought that it could be. This wasn't the intentions. I'm just coming up showing who I am. And hey, if you want to do karaoke with me, pull up.
Right.
Simple as that. I always knew I had a word, but I wrote my word down. I have my messages are written down. It was for me in my journaling. It was for me, not for the people. And I did not know that he was shaping and fashioning me to give the people what he's already given me. This is for the people. The story is for the people, right?
Right.
And so I was, once again, my obedience has always been greater than my sacrifices. One thing about me is that when he tell me to do something as strange, as weird as it may look from others, I don't care because God has proven himself to me. So I would do it. And it exactly what I did. Like, what is she doing? And that turned into Grown Folks Boulevard. We still have a good time. I still play good music. We have great conversations now. But guess what? During my healing journey and my personal development, self-love and self-worth, now I'm doing what he has called me to do. Now I'm here to give the people what he have me to give them through me. I'm here to give you what you need. I don't know you. I don't know what you need from it, but I know that when you've been called and sent into my platform, I have to be obedient and give you what he has called me and told me to give to you. That's it. I can't take anything from it. That's not me. That's God. That's all God. And so that turned into, now it has to be turned into a movement. So when I say we go Grown Folks Boulevard every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Central Time, I'm the syndicated host that you love the most. I'm speaking that into existence, where I'm going. You may not know where I'm going, but I know where I'm headed. And so
Mhm.
therefore, I'm supposed to speak that thing as though as it is. So when you ask me what radio station, what I'm on, you're right. TikTok, GFBLB, Grown Folks Boulevard, 7 o'clock Central Time. Catch me there. We have great conversations. We play great music, great intellect. We have people, we talk about grown folks conversations that can lead you and take you to places where you probably didn't want to have the conversations, but also we have a good time to let your hair down a little bit. So yeah, that's where that led to, but that was all God. That was not my intentions.
But it happened, and y'all
Yeah.
got to pull up because she is very fun, and as you can see the energy and everything. So here, check her out right here. Here's her. That's her. That's her. That's her. That's her Instagram right here. I mean, this is her TikTok right here. Go follow her and tap in on Tuesdays at 7 Central, 8 Eastern, and get in and hang out with her because she has phenomenal content going on. Very inspirational, very elevating, very empowering. And y'all need to pull up and check her out. Also, go follow her on Instagram. This is her Instagram. Pull up, pull up, pull up. Here's what I'm going to say. There's people out here that come and they hear things and they hear stories, and you might want to connect with her. You might not be able to connect with her directly. You might not be able to talk to her on the phone. You might not be able to get her in her email, not because she's busy, but just because y'all don't have that relationship. But doesn't mean that you still can't be mentored by her, by following her content, by engaging her content. She has some things on the horizon that she's about to put out, that she's going to be dropping over the next few months. I ain't gonna put a time frame on that, but we gonna tap in, and when it drops, we gonna pull up and we gonna support it. So all I'm saying is, if you on TikTok, go follow her because it is a vibe. She be cooling. And I pulled up the other night and she was in there in the old school, spinning the old school mix. And I thought she's a DJ because I'm like, that thing blended pretty good. Cause that was like, oh man, my DJ stuff kicked in. I was like, okay, that was a solid mix. That was a solid blend. But she's fun and she's empowering. So just check her out. Um, and so I got one last question for you.
Yes.
This is a introspective question. You kind of you've shared a ton of, you was dropping gems like a drunken pirate. So you you got some content, some weight out of this. But the question is, what is something that you didn't that you early on that you didn't pay attention to that you had to learn the hard way as you got older?
That I wholeheartedly thought that if you leave with pure intentions and if you was a good person, that good things and good people will find you. I didn't know that that wasn't the reality of the world. I just assumed that, good people meet good people, and if you got pure intentions, you meet pure people. And I wish that I would have known about the realities of this world early on so that I could have been prepared for the werewolves and for the vampires.
Mm.
That I would have been prepared for the opponents and knew what they looked like, that I could have understood and saw their spirit early on. I wish I would have known that I was the chosen one and what that means and how I'm going to have a target on my back. I wish I would have known what are some characteristics of the enemy so that I can be aware of when I'm entertaining or sleeping with the enemy. I wish I would have known how powerful I really am because of God has put something in me that no man can put asunder. I wish I would have known what that looked like and could have connected with other people that would have saw God in me and saw that I was the chosen one. And here's the thing. Now I'm thinking that people knew exactly who I was. They know exactly who I am. And because of that, that is the reason why I've been tested and tried. So I wish I would have known who I was and how powerful I was just being by myself, because I was enough then as I am enough now.
Ooh, wee.
More than enough.
More than enough.
Mhm.
More than enough. And your value is only increasing.
Yes, absolutely.
It is only
Yesterday's
increasing.
price is not today's price.
Come on. Hey, y'all better get it wise. Y'all better get it wise right now because when she turned this corner,
It's a wrap.
it's
It's
a
a
it's
wrap.
a wrap.
It's a
It is
wrap.
it is a wrap. Well, look, I appreciate you pulling up and hanging out with me on here for these few minutes. It was amazing. And with that being said, I love y'all like a play cousin, and I'm out, y'all. Peace.